I'm Dave Temple. My next guest on the Thriller Zone is New York Times bestselling author whose larger than life hero and swashbuckling counterspy, Alex Hawke, has taken readers on action packed and treacherous page turning missions across international borders. James Patterson, you've heard of him, right? He says Ted Bell can really write and that Alex Hawke is the next new James Bond. Do you need any more than that? I think not. Please join me as I hang out with the oh so funny, so engaging, and monstrously talented Ted Bell on the Thriller Zone. Cheers. By the way, you'll notice, Ted, that I have been stalking. Well, you won't notice that I've been stalking your Instagram, but because I knew you're such a debonair, suave guy,
Yeah, right.
I upped my game.
You've got it working. I mean, you look like you just stepped off a yacht.
I've got to tell you something, Ted. My yacht is much bigger than yours.
I'm sure it is.
Uh,
Mine's 350 feet. I don't know what yours is.
Mine is a dinghy. So
I
I did.
don't have a boat. This is the first time in my life I've not had a boat. It's making me nuts.
Why do you not have a boat?
Well, I had a lot of different boats when I lived in Chicago. I had a beautiful Hinckley Southwester 35,
Oh,
a 1954 Block Island Champion that I bought in Manchester by the Sea and trucked out to Chicago Yacht Club. And I sailed that for 10 years out there. And then when I moved to Palm Beach, I had a dock right on the water that went right out to the intercoastal.
oh,
And so sailing didn't make a whole lot of sense on the intercoastal, but having a powerboat did. And so I got one of those Carolina boats that had the big flared hulls
sure.
and the big, and then very sleek. And I had three 250 horsepower outboards on the transom. It was just like insane. So my stepson and I would just fire down to Ocean Reef Club or to Miami and Key West, and it was great. It
Wow.
was great, yeah.
And you're in Connecticut now, right?
Greenwich, right?
Got
Yeah.
it. And do you, no boats though?
No boats. I'm thinking about joining this club called Belhaven Club, and if I do that, I might get a power boat that I can go over to Long Island with from the Belhaven Club or stuff like that. I don't know. Who knows?
Wow.
But now in my life is sort of changing because my beloved girlfriend Victoria bought a beautiful house in Charleston, and I'm going there on Saturday, and I probably will stay, hopefully like a month or something.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, Charleston, South
Oh,
Carolina.
yeah, that's down my neck of the woods.
Where are you? Are you from South Carolina?
No, I'm from North Carolina. I'm from Charlotte area.
Oh, Charlotte's a great town.
Yeah, way
I
back when. Yeah.
love North Carolina.
It is
Oh,
beautiful. In Charleston, I mean, between the history and the old
um,
buildings and the water,
and
it's delightful.
the
Yes.
gardens, the architecture. I mean, our street, which is Lawrence Street, you just driving down the street or walking the dog, you're looking at the most beautiful gardens you can imagine, and incredible
Oh,
architecture. And everybody's very house proud. So
oh
they
yeah.
keep the houses like perfect.
Oh yeah.
Ours was built in 1769. So it was
Wow.
still a British colony then. So it's a very British architecture, but she found a beautiful house in a great historic neighborhood.
I always thought it was interesting though. What do they call them? The porches run
They call them loges.
loggias. Yeah, they
Yeah,
go
the
front back instead of the front.
loges run on every floor
Yeah.
from the street side all the way to the back of the garden.
Yeah.
And so it's all this walking and sitting room and stuff like that. But they're very pretty and really high ceilings and
Yeah.
beautiful windows and beautiful fireplaces. And so I'm going Saturday. I can't wait to get there.
Good for you.
I've been hanging out in this house all by myself for like months. I'm just when I finished my book, I was like bored to tears.
So the
But
good news is you're going down there. The bad news is you're going at probably what the single hottest part of the
yeah, it
whole year.
was
Sticky,
90,
muggy.
99 yesterday.
Dude, it's
She
the
said
worst.
she couldn't even go out and walk the dog. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. We have great air conditioning now.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the walls are so thick that
Sure.
the living room is like when you walk in, you feel like it's air conditioned, but it's not. It's just the cold air stays inside.
Yeah.
So I'll do. I grew up in Florida, so I've been through
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. You know all that stuff.
But I just, just want to be there.
Yeah. So
So,
Ted, let me ask you, because I've seen a couple of different numbers. I saw 12, I saw 13. Is it 14 New York Times bestsellers now?
yeah, because that I think there are. I'm not sure how many Hawke books there are, but in addition to the Hawke books are the first two books I wrote.
Right.
One of them was Nick of Time, which was done by St. Martin's, and then the sequel was called The Time Pirate. And The Time Pirate is up for serious consideration as a streaming Netflix series, because it's got time travel, it's got Nazis and pirates. And
Sure.
it's great. So I've got a great producer out there who's putting all this together for me.
And that was that 2000? That was your first book, right?
Nick of Time was the first
Nick
book.
of Time, yeah.
And I was writing that when I was running Y&R and living in London. And so every spare minute that I wasn't working, I was writing that book.
Wow.
Vacations and everything. And I continued to write it when we came back and moved to Greenwich on the commute, on the train going in and out. I was writing it. And I never had any idea that I'd be able to sell the manuscript, but St. Martin's just loved it. So, and it got number 4 on the Times list for the children's hardcover, which was the first book. I mean, that was great.
So so you're out of the gate in 2000 in the YA book, and then shortly thereafter, this was well before.
I think Hawke, which is the first Hawke book, came, and I want to say 2003.
Yeah. So 3 years later.
Yeah, and then came Hawke.
How did you jump from YA? You must have. Something tells me you were hardwired for that James Bond-esque thriller type before you wrote.
Always.
Yeah.
And I was much more of a fan of Ian than of Bond. I thought Bond was sort of boring. I mean, the movies made him funny, but the books were just very dry, because Ian said that he wanted him to be the gray man that doesn't stand out in a crowd, and he wrote it that way. And yet, I mean, he's obviously a fabulous writer, but yeah, I thought I could make him a more interesting character than Bond, and sort of take Bond as a lead jumping off point, and then have this guy be the 6th richest man in England, Bachelor of the Year in Tatler magazine in London every year, whatever. And so I had fun thinking up Hawke,
First of all, how's it feel to have James the Legend Patterson call you your Alex Hawke, basically the new James Bond, which
it was good.
Oh,
Thank you, Jim. It was funny because he and I were not very friendly when we both lived in New York, because he was running the creative department at J. Walter Thompson.
Yeah.
And I was running Y&R Worldwide creative department. And so he was always trying to steal my guys, and I was trying to steal his guys. So this is a competitive thing. And I remember I was standing on Madison 72nd outside of Ralph Lauren and just waiting for the light to change. And this bus goes by, and I see this huge ad all the way down the side of the bus saying, "Kiss the Girls, the new book by James Bond." I went, that son of a bitch. Now he's written a novel. He's like, so then I moved to Palm Beach. And
which he lives there as well, right?
Yeah, he does. And he was like 3 houses away from me.
Wow.
And so we became pals, but he's a feisty. So have you ever met him or talked to him?
No, but I took his masterclass on masterclass.com and got a real good sense of what he was about after 15 or 20 episodes of that.
Yeah.
But he's a feisty guy, you say?
Yeah, he is. He's like sort of prickly.
Yeah.
Like he would call me and say, "So what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working on the book." He said, "Well, come over here. I got to talk to you." And so I go over there, and it's in the afternoon, and he's sitting out by his pool, and I sit by the pool with him. And I say, "What's on your mind, JP?" And he said, "Why do you go down all these roads in your work?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You just go down these roads. You go down this road, and you take another road, and you take a detour, you go back to an old road, and then back. What is that all about?" I said, "I like to not know where I'm going. I want it to be like, oh gosh, I didn't think this was going to happen." And he said, "Well, I don't know. It's not my way." I said, "No." He said, "You don't outline, obviously." I said, I've never outlined, and I never will. He outlines everything.
He outlines every single beat. And
Yeah,
he does it by hand on pencil on a legal pad, and he does it until he is happy with it. So you never outline?
but they never have. But then he turns it over to his, his army of writers.
Right.
He gives them like 60 pages of plot, and then they turn it into 250 pages or whatever.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah. So if you go in his office, they're like just stacks of manuscripts all around the room. He's just got like 30 books going. The guy's crazy, but anyway, he was very helpful to me, I have to say.
Well, I was going to say, how interesting is it, the parallel advertising exec,
Right.
Florida, book. And
Right.
now, granted, nothing taken away from you, but the word prolific doesn't even quite begin to do it because of the volume that he's written.
Right.
But I'm not sneezing at you. You got your first one in 03, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 2 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20. I mean, you're not sitting around goofing off on some leisurely boat ride of yours. You're cranking.
Because I'm never happier than when I'm just living in that world with all those characters. They're like my friends. I mean, like I sit down and they all start talking, and again I go, I love that. I love that he said that, because I don't know what they're going to say.
I totally get that.
It's like I'm taking dictation. They're
Sure.
just talking. I'm not thinking, well, Hawke says, we've got to find this woman. And then Congreve says, well, she's dead or whatever. That doesn't even occur to me to think what they're going to say to each other. They just say it. And it just comes out of the blue. It's like I'm overhearing the conversation and writing it down.
That's a gift, Ted. You know that.
I guess, because, people sort of they like the books.
Well, I was going to say, I'm loving Czar, and I'm looking
That's my favorite, by the way.
Yeah, well, I guess that because you sent it to me. 700 pages that's no slouch. And I'll tell you what, the one I've got so many things to say about, but basically the thing I love the most is the volume of detail. You don't get in the car, speed away, go shoot someone, go. I mean, you paint the environment, you layer the characters. It's a beautiful tapestry of words.
Well, one of the things I got from Jim, that I mean, he didn't give me a lot, but he did occasionally say something, and I would go, okay, that's good. That's a good thing to know. And he said, when you're really deep into the book, you should not think of chapters. You should think of scenes in a movie, and each chapter is another scene in the movie. And it's just like you're watching the movie, and then you have it dissolve over to, okay, now we're over here. Now he's on the Riviera or whatever. And it said, just think of it as a scene instead of a chapter, because a chapter you kind of think, well, it's what's beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't have to be. It can just go with it. So that was a good thing I got from him.
I would 100% agree. And at about 70 chapters, that fits perfectly with the screenplay. I mean, when you break it down similarly.
Yeah.
So I had this question since we're on Czar and I'm loving Alex Hawke. Your lead character, how
is Czar the first one you've read?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Here's
a good one to start with.
Well, here's the beautiful thing, and I mean this in all the best ways, is I had never heard of you. I'm trying to recall how I found out about you, but I knew the minute I picked this up, I'm like, I've got a new favorite author that I'm going to spend a lot of time with. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your skirt. I'm just saying, this is because I was such an Ian Fleming, James Bond kind of character fan. And you do take it a step further, and I'm loving it. But here's my question. I noticed when I was doing some research on Twitter, your Twitter alias is Alex Hawke, not you. And I wanted to say, how similar, classic question, how similar are you and Alex?
Pretty similar. I mean, I'm not a British lord. He is. I'd like to be a British lord.
Yeah.
If I could fall asleep and wake up a British lord, I'd be happy. But I think one of the things I thought was a failing of Ian's, and I'm a huge fan. I've read every biography of Ian. I've been to his house in Mayfair. where he lived with Anne. I've been to the house
GoldenEye.
in Jamaica, GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of his, so I'm not knocking him. But I just thought I thought Bond was sort of boring. You know, he never showed any emotion. He was never funny. He was just a guy. And so I just said, I'm going to make Hawke charming and dashing and debonair and a real ladies' man, and, you know, most bachelor of the year, 6th richest man in England, yachts, houses everywhere. So I just said, I'm going for it. And, you know, I had him have in Seahawk, he has a new yacht built in Holland, which is 250 feet long. And it's basically a battleship disguised as a gentleman's yacht.
Right.
It's got radar guided missiles. It's got all this crap. And he's even on the bow. He's friends with in Seahawk. He's friends with Elon Musk. And so Elon tells him about this laser cannon that he's building. and he says, "Can I get one of those?" And he says, "Sure." He says, what are you going to do with this? It's mounted on the bow of my boat. I can slice things in half with a laser cannon. So anyway, I mean, I just made it outrageous.
Sure. Well, it's about toys, right? Men and their
it's a lot about toys.
Yeah.
I mean, his car is exactly what the car that Ian drove for most of his life, which was a 1953 Bentley Continental R with a souped-up engine,
Nice.
steel battleship gray, and that's Hawke's daily driver is exactly that car. But then he's got a Ferrari and he's got all this other stuff.
Is that black Bentley I saw on Instagram yours?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a beauty.
I call it the Batmobile. It's like,
yeah, it's wicked and sexy at the same time.
It's good, and it's V12.
Oh,
so when the torque, when I'm trying to get out on the Merritt, you know, going to New York or going north, it just explodes. I mean, for a big, heavy car that's just total luxury, it rockets.
Yeah,
and it's great. The feeling of the torque is just like, it's fantastic. I had 2 Ferraris in my life, and I had a 550 Maranello, which was a V12, sort of a gentleman's touring car. And then I had the 612 Scaglietti, which was I think the only Ferrari that had a small back seat, which I never liked that one very much, but I did like the 550. But this Bentley, I would never give it up. It's just heaven.
So you are basically sharing Alex Hawke's life. You are living the Alex Hawke life. I'm wondering, do your friends accuse you of blending the two lives seamlessly?
No.
No?
No. I mean, nobody has done that.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to blend me. I don't know. You know, I created him out of, you know, one of the great things about being chairman of Young and Rubicam is I was all over the world all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I made sure I went to like Hotel de Cap. I made sure I went to Claridge's and Dorchester and wherever. And I just was having a ball. And I was not real popular because I never cared about politics in business. All I cared about was I wanted to do, or for our company, Young and Rubicam, we were the largest agency in the world at that point. And I wanted us to just do the best ads that were being done in the world. That's all I wanted. I didn't care about, you know, what my title was or anything. And so one of my jobs being based in London was to go to the European offices and take the creative director and the office guy who ran the office out to dinner that night. And then the next morning, go to the office and show me all the work the commercials that they had done so far that year. And so some of the creative directors I thought were brilliant, like the guy in London, Mike, what was Mike's last name? I can't remember, but he was fabulous. And but like the guy in Milan was a sort of a pretty boy with a ponytail, and he was on all the magazine covers, and he was a terrible creative director.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd go down there and I was like, oh, okay, what do we got here? And he said, Ted, you have to see, we've done the best Marlboro commercial for Christmas ever done. He said, I'll show it to you tomorrow morning. And I said, great, can't wait to see it. So I go over there to their screening room, and he puts this commercial on, and it's a guy with a buckboard with 2 horses dragging a huge Christmas tree behind the buckboard through the snow, like in Montana or something.
Right.
The only Marlboro about it at that point is the the Marlboro Man music. But there's like, what? And it goes on forever. I think it's like 90 seconds. And I keep thinking, where is this guy going?
Right.
Why is he dragging a Christmas tree? And what's this got to do with Marlboro? And so finally he goes over a hill and he sees a little cabin with lights in the window and smoke coming up. And you cut inside, and there's this little family gathered around their Christmas tree with the fire going. And there's a knock at the door. And they go to the door and open the front door. And there's a guy standing there with a big fur hood on. And he pulls his hood back and says, "Merry Christmas." And it's Paul Newman. And so I said to Giovanni, he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I just have a question for you. Maybe I'm crazy. What's Paul Newman doing delivering Christmas trees in Montana? He's a famous actor that lives in LA, but now he's delivering Christmas trees, with a buckboard. What's the deal there?" He said, "It's Paul Newman." I said, "I know it's Paul Newman, but I don't understand why he's in the commercial, because he doesn't do any Paul Newman stuff. He just says Merry Christmas, and how much did we pay him? $1 million. $1 million. Because Marlboro had infinite supply.
Right.
He said to me that night at dinner, he had a few drinks, and he said, "Ted," he said, "do you know what we all call you behind your back?" I said, "No. How would I know? It's behind my back." He said, "We call you the corporate seagull." I said, "The corporate seagull? That's interesting. Why do you call me that?" He said, "Because you fly in, you shit all over everything, and then you fly away." I said, "That's pretty accurate job description. That's about what I do. You're right."
Wow.
Anyway.
Oh, nice to have friends in high places.
Yeah, right.
So
have we started, or are we just still?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So DDB, New York, Leo Burnett,
Yep.
Chicago, Young and Rubicam, London.
Yep.
Had you always dreamt of being, before writing, had you always dreamt of being in advertising? I'm just curious. I've always been fascinated with advertising.
No, I didn't know anything about it, but I moved to my grandmother for a college graduation present, gave me a year abroad in Europe, and I got a little house in Switzerland, and I started working on what would become Nick of Time. And I had a girlfriend from New York who was a Ford model who was living with this Swedish Vogue photographer in Milan. And she would invite me down to his parties every Saturday night. And so I just met all these advertising people from Milan. And they would all say, "Can I take you to lunch tomorrow?" I said, "Sure, right, let's go." And this one guy, Luigi Montahini, said, "Ted, you need to be in advertising." I said, "I don't even know what it is." I mean, I sort of know what it is. I saw Cary Grant be an advertising guy in the movie, but I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because you're funny. And funny is really good in advertising." So I said, okay. So he hired me at his agency, didn't speak a word of Italian at that point. And it was a German company. And the German owner came down to do a tour of the Italian office. And he stopped by my office, such as it was, and said, "Who are you?" And I told him. He said, "What do you do here?" I said, "I'm a copywriter." He said, "Oh, do you speak Italian?" I said, "No. But Luigi's going to get me Italian lessons." And so he went to Luigi and he fired me because I didn't speak Italian. He couldn't understand why Luigi would think I could even do the job because I didn't speak Italian. But that was okay. I got the bug just by working there for a month or so. I just love the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, what's it like? Let's see, that was, you had to be 25. This was the 70s. You were 25. What was that like, living in New York?
It was great. It was great. Single in New York in the 70s. It was fabulous.
Woo.
And I loved the job. I loved it. And my first agency was Tinker Dodge in Delano. And Mary Wells was the creative director. And then she left and started Wells Rich Green. But I just loved the business so much that I would literally run between meetings. I would run. Like if I, I had a meeting and I had to be in my office for another, I'd run to my office. And so I found out that Mary, who I later got to know pretty well, she said that they called me who do you want to have work on this pitch for Rose's lime juice or whatever the hell it was.
Right.
Get that boy, the boy that runs, get him. The boy that runs. And I told Victoria, my girlfriend just started a new job in Charleston. And I told her the story of the boy who runs. I said, you want to be like the boy that runs, because everybody wants the guy who runs.
Yeah.
We're so excited. They can't wait to get to the next challenge or whatever.
What do you have a really key lesson that you walked away from such a prolific career in advertising that affected your life and has now helped benefit your writing career?
Yeah, I do, because what I hated most advertising, and now I really hate it, because there's no good advertising anymore. It's just garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, the only company that's doing anything funny is the insurance Geico.
Yeah.
They're funny, and that's it. But everything used to be funny, or at least great storytelling. You know, the ads we did for Polaroid and McDonald's and you know, all these wonderful clients we had were like movies. They
Right.
They were stories. And so that's the only kind of commercial I was interested in, was the story. And, you know, I didn't do like hold the product up, whatever, you know, I just did stories. And the power of storytelling really hit home with me. If you could do it in 60 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever,
Yeah.
and tell a good story with a beginning, middle, and end, storytelling was something I was really interested in.
Remember back in the day when the Super Bowl ads were the best thing ever? Everybody put all their chips on Red 26 on that day, and
Absolutely.
you would almost watch the
Just
Super
to see
Bowl
a commercial.
Yeah.
People would, and then the next Monday after Super Bowl Sunday, they'd run a big article in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal saying the new Miller Lite commercials are hysterical or whatever. And we did a lot of major Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah.
And shot them all with the same director, Joe Pitka, and they were stunning. And it was just so much fun. You couldn't wait to Super Bowl day to see your commercial, like
sure,
5 million people or whatever.
What a great living. But what happened, Ted? What happened to those great ads? The last several years, you just
research.
Research
is what happened.
Oh, good.
All of a sudden, after, and this was at Doyle Dane, which was the premier creative agency of the 60s and 70s. All of a sudden, we had a research department, and I was like one of the heads of the creative department. And they say, and I would take an ad to the account guys who were going to go to the client the next day, and they would say, "Well, has research seen this idea?" And I'd say, "No." So, well, you got to show it to research. I said, "Why? What do they know?" And they said, "Well, they're research." I said, "Yeah, but what do they know? They don't know anything about the client. They don't know anything about how to create advertising that works." And they said, "Well, the client, now that we've got a research department, wants everything to go through research." And I said to myself, and everybody would listen, I said, "This is the beginning of the end."
Yep.
I'm not going to want to do this business anymore.
Yep.
With research. And it was just stupid, the comments they would make. So that kind of, they took over the research people. And the clients liked it because they would feel like they couldn't make a mistake with their boss, because the research people had told them at the ad agency that this was what they should do. It wasn't their idea, it was the research people. So they
just ass covering is really what it was.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of the latter days of radio. The reason I got out of radio is the consolidation, when all the big corporations started buying up everybody and we had no competition anymore, and it all got watered down, which meant you didn't really follow the ratings anymore. So the guys wouldn't compete, and then the stations wouldn't compete, and you're like,
why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Right. That's how I felt. But it was Doyle Dane was a great place to start.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in those 5 or 6 years that I worked there. That stood me in good stead when I went to Burnett, which everybody thought was a lost cause. because they were just doing these critters. You know, they had the Keebler Elves, and they had Charlie the Tuna, the Maytag Repair, and it's opposite of the kind of advertising that I had any inclination of doing.
Right.
So I just brought the Doyle Dane work ethic and creative strategy to Leo Burnett, and we turned the company around inside of a year. Wow. I fired all the old guys who'd just been resting on their laurels, making a lot of money, and hired all young kids right out of art school or from University of Texas Advertising School. And I filled the place up with all these young Turks that didn't know the rules and just wanted to do the kind of stuff I wanted to do. I wanted to be funny, I wanted to be whatever. And we turned that agency around.
I'm having a flashback of Mad Men.
Yeah.
Remember in the old, like early in the series, it was one way, and then when they started bending rules and bringing in new blood and just going free for all, because a true creative, an artist, can't really be bound by rules. Don't put them in a box.
Yeah, and then my feeling was, and they actually sent some people to my office when they were getting into production, but it was a lot based on Y&R. It was kind of a mix of Y&R and Doyle Dane. Mm-hmm. And the head creative guy was sort of they just nailed it with that guy, whatever, John Hamm.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was perfect. But it was fun to watch. And I mean, a lot crazier stuff happened than the stuff on the show.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
I promise you.
I don't doubt that, especially with you. From what little I know about you, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Right. It was great. It was great.
So let's bring it up to a little bit newer or later in life, and say, when was that point when somebody said to you, they picked up that manuscript and said, "Wow, you've got the goods. Let's do this thing. Let's write up a contract and get going."
Yeah. Well, the first one that got published was Nick of Time, which was the first book I wrote, in which the character of Alex Hawke appears in that book as a 5-year-old boy with his little sister as a character that's been kidnapped by pirates. And so when I came time to write a grown-up book, I said, I'm calling him Alex Hawke because I like that name.
There you go.
But he started in Nick of Time. But I just, it's Nick of Time gave me permission to take chances because I figured I'm writing for young adults. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be more forgiving than maybe the critical adult audience.
Right.
It gave me permission to just let it rip. And I loved every minute of writing that book. Every minute of it was just, and I didn't have to wait for anybody to tell me it was good. I knew, because I spent my whole life reading. That's all. I spent most of my life just reading.
Sure.
First grade. I was always never without a book in my hand, no matter where I went.
Well, I was going to say one thing about reading your work. It's abundantly clear is that you can tell that you're an avid reader. You can tell that you're well versed in history and politics and research. But I mean, at the end, you can flat out write. I mean, let's just say that. But is it Stephen King says, if you're not a writer, if you're not a reader?
Yeah, that's true. I agree with him. And there's a quote. I'm reading this book called The Plot, it's great. It's about a creative writing teacher who steals a plot from one of his students because it's so brilliant. And then he has to deal with the consequences. And the little forward in the first pages of the book says, good writers borrow from other writers. Great writers steal. And I think it's true. I mean, if I see a sentence or two that are just beautiful, I can fit them in. I just stick them in.
Oh, do you really?
I'm happy about it because I mean, if I'm one of the first impressionist artists, and all of a sudden every artist in Paris wants to paint like me, they're going to steal my technique.
Right.
And so that's just kind of what artists do. They take from who went before.
Right.
But I mean, I would never have a whole page or even a paragraph, but a sentence here or there, or a description of a sunset or something like that, I'll just, lay it in.
Back to James Patterson. Do you guys do you steal from one another and or do you talk on any kind of regular basis? I'm curious.
No, I still go to Palm Beach now and then,
Yeah.
and I'll go out to dinner and I'll see he and Sue, and his kid Jack is I love,
Yeah.
and really a smart kid, and so yeah, I see him and we're friendly.
Nice.
We don't talk on the phone or anything, but yeah, we're still friendly.
Let's go to another piece of your creative spirit that I'm completely enamored with because I've tested my hand at this. But you shot out of the gate. Was your first attempt at screenplay writing, was that about 25? And is it true that you sold that like out of the gate?
Yeah, I sold.
And what screenplay was that?
Well, I wrote a screenplay of Nick of Time
Okay.
when Paramount bought it.
Oh, geez.
So right out of the gate. And I mean, I've learned my lesson about Hollywood because I mean now I've got a great producer out there. Now things are starting to happen for me because my head producer, Mary Alice Haney, she has two producer partners, two women. One of the girls is married to the CEO of Universal.
Nice.
And the other girl is married to the head of Netflix Films. And so she says, we are fast tracking you. You know, with my two girls, we're going right to the top of Universal and right to the top of Netflix.
Wow.
So that's where Time Pirates is getting ready to go to Netflix. I should send you the lookbook.
I'd love to see that.
It's beautiful. The art is, I did most of the creative work on it myself. And it's just for producers it's like seeing storyboards of what the film will look like. And it's a great way to sell, you know, especially a visionary tale that's got time travel and
oh yeah,
U-boats and all
I sense a series.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't mind at all.
Well, I mean, everybody says when's the sequel to Time Pirate coming out?
Yeah.
And you know, my obligation now is to Random House to give them Seahawk, and then what's the next book going to be? So
sure.
You can't take a year off and write another YA book.
And let's do that right now. So Dragonfire's out there now. Seahawk's coming December 7th.
Right, which is a great update because it's the beginning of Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
So it's a good time for it. Yeah.
Sure. Well, dude, I'm already, may I call you dude, sir dude, master dude?
Dude is good. Mr. Dude to you.
Mr. Dude, may I?
I love that word. And I love the way girls call each other dude now.
Yeah, I do love that.
Yeah, like the millennial girls. Hey, dude.
My wife will do that. Every once in a while, I'll say something kind of silly. She'll go, dude, really?
Dude, what? It's a great word.
What was I going to say, dude? Oh, yeah. Talk to me about Seahawk. Give me a little inside scoop on Seahawk.
Okay. Well, yeah. So in Dragonhawk, there's all of the communist and socialist governments under the guidance of the Cubans, Communist Party of Cuba, have formed an unholy alliance. So it's China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. If it's a bad actor, they're in the Red Star Alliance, and that's what it's called. And Hawke has a mission to go up the Amazon, because what they're doing is they're building all these incredibly luxurious Chinese resorts, and they're called Dragonfire clubs. And so they're having a meeting of all the Red Star Alliance allies from the highest levels in Russia, China, Iran, everywhere. And so Hawke is given information that they're holding this like 4-day conference way up the Amazon. And so Sir David Truelove, who's the head of MI6, says, go up there and take that place out. Just wipe it off the map and don't care how many lives are lost. And so that's what he does. And so in Seahawk, he's decided that he's not spending enough time with his son, Lexi, who is like 11. And so he says, the book starts at Black's Club, which is is, it's based on White's Club in London. And he says that he wants to take some time off to spend with his son. And he's having a new yacht built in Amsterdam. And he's going to do a circumnavigation with his kid and teach him how to sail and navigate by the stars and about women and automobile, everything. It's like a tutorial.
Sure.
So that's the idea. It's a big sea voyage, epic sea voyage. So he goes to Havana and he gets involved with he discovers that there's no one in the world knew this, but there's actually a third Castro brother, which is just what we need now, is another Castro brother. And so this guy is building a revolutionary communist army in the Sierra Madre where Fidel was. And this Castro is going to have a coup against the right-wing, American-friendly government of Cuba,
right,
and take him out. So Hawke's job is to stop that plan. And then he goes to Miami and he has adventures there. And he goes to Bermuda and it's just cool. It's all mostly at sea. With the laser cannon on the bow.
With the laser cannon.
On the bow, yeah.
As developed by Elon Musk.
Oh, that's my.
Take a look at the help section in your Alexa.
That's that Alexa thing. What is it? There's a little speaker over there. Anyway.
Tell her to shut up, would you?
Yeah, be quiet.
Hey, can you tell me who said this? I ran across this quote. Alex Hawke, a James Bond-like character who kicks twice as much ass and has more money than 007 could ever dream of.
I don't know who said that, but I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Maybe it was in a review or something.
Yeah, I can't find it. It's on one of your books somewhere, and I'm like, man, can you get any better of a quote than that?
Good one.
Kicks twice.
Well, $10 is the new Ian Fleming, and Alex Hawke is the new James Bond. That's a pretty good one from Jim. That's a good quote.
Yes.
That was really kind of him. Yeah.
When James says this guy can write, he can really, really write.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah. How many times does someone use a word twice in a sentence?
That was really good, actually. That was a great quote, great blurb.
I'm trying to imagine as you're growing up and you're an avid reader, I want to know two things because this is so much like Alex. Who was one of your most influential authors? Who did you grow up as either kid or younger years, even today, that you go, this author has some kind of magic that I've never seen before?
I can tell you, I can say it right off the top of my head because there's only one guy for me.
Who is it?
It's Scott Fitzgerald. He's the guy I most wanted to be like.
Got it.
I think he writes like an angel.
Yeah.
The most beautiful sentences. And he's just a fantastic writer. And I sort of tried to like Hemingway, but then I read The Old Man and the Sea and I said, this is the most boring book I've ever. Nothing happens. This guy goes out by himself on a boat and he's looking for a fish, but nothing ever happens. It's horrible.
I'm so glad you said that. I picked up that book last summer and I was like really waiting for something and I read it. I'm like, and I turned to my wife.
It was going to be great. I mean, the title was like, oh, this is going to be really good.
Yeah. Is this it?
This book's really bad.
Nothing happened. But anyway, back to Scott. What was a book do you remember a book that, I bet you it's in your library.
Oh yeah. Well, Tender is the Night.
Okay.
And The Great Gatsby, which I think I have two books that I think are the best American novels. One is Huck Finn, is I think the greatest American novel. And Hemingway himself said that all great American literature flows from Huckleberry Finn. That's what Hemingway said about Mark Twain. Wow. And then Scott. And I love all his books, The Beautiful and the Damned, Tender is the Night. I love them. So when I'm like, feel like I'm not writing very well, I just pick up a Fitzgerald book and read a few pages and I'm back in.
Well, I got a little inside secret for you, Ted. You're doing just fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
We're all back here eating your dust, wishing we could be kind of in your sphere up front. So
that's very common.
Yeah. It's true. Now, along that same line, you had to have had a hero, a childhood hero, a young man hero, a current hero. Who's somebody that you thought, man,
I think my first hero was my dad. He was a B-25 pilot in the Army Air Corps up in the Aleutian Islands, distinguished flying cross for his attacks on Japanese naval convoys. he was a hot shit,
Wow.
and then incredibly good looking. He's on the cover of Life magazine with the Cotton Queen. They used to have this thing called the Cotton Queen down south. And he was just he was funny, he was a great chess player, the Civil War historian.
Wow.
But I mean, just the fact that he, when I was sitting at the KA house, the Kappa Alpha house in Virginia, drinking beer, waiting for my girlfriend to arrive from Sarah Lawrence or whatever, he's flying a plane with 8 guys' lives in his hands, getting shot at all day. And I, because I was like 22, maybe in my junior year or senior year, and he was flying a bomber in harm's way and responsible for the lives of all those young guys. And I just thought that was just amazing. So he was, I used to wear his bomber jacket. I still have it.
That's awesome. How long did he live?
He lived a long time for a guy who drank a bottle of bourbon every day. I mean, he was from South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a great South Carolinian. And he used to, his doctor was always telling him to stop smoking and stop drinking. And he told me that, he was like, he had turned 90 and he went to see the doctor. And the doctor said, well, Ted, how's the drinking going? He said, it's fabulous, fabulous. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, Sally doesn't put dinner on the table till 7 o'clock. So between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, I drink as much as I possibly can. That's what he said. And I have Hawke saying that in one of the books, saying that to his doctor in Bermuda, that Edward VII Hospital, he says exactly that thing to him. How's the drinking, Alex? Fabulous. Couldn't be better.
I'm holding up my end of the bargain.
Yeah, right.
I love that. I love that. So that's your full-on childhood hero. Did you have one that came along later, or somebody that you looked up to?
Yeah, I like Gary Cooper.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Quiet Man, and I like Gable.
Yeah.
And I like Spencer. I love those guys from that year. And I had a house in Aspen for some years. And I became really good friends with the actor Robert Wagner, RJ. Became a good friend of mine. We played golf all the time. And he grew up as a caddy at the Bel Air Country Club. So he was out playing golf with Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy and Gary Cooper and Cary Grant. And they were all letting him drive their cars or Duesenbergs or whatever. And he just had amazing stories to tell about those guys. How cool it was great. It was great. Yeah.
What a charmed life.
Yeah. He's a wonderful guy, actually.
Let's transfer over to writing a little bit. When does that moment, that light bulb go on when you go, oh, I have a solid idea. This is it. Now, with a lot of Alex Hawkes, I got to believe that you have that happen repeatedly. But
yeah,
when does that happen for you? When do you and the next part of that? When do you know that arc? Now, I know that you're a pantser, so we've made that pretty clear already. But when do you know, okay, this is going to be the completion of this story?
Right. Well, when I thought of the idea of Hawke taking his son for a circumnavigation of the globe, I thought that was a great idea, because I could have his son have to step up to the plate and do some heroic things and mimic his father, or learn from his father, or whatever. I just like that idea.
Yeah. Plus, I love the fact that you get, as the reader, a father can read the story and his son can read the story.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. But I mean, like right now, I'm trying to think of what to do after Seahawk, and it's like, I'm having ideas and I'm having titles come into my head, and but I haven't got it yet.
That was my next question. I mean, I know that as writers, we're daydreaming about this one, we're writing this one, we'll release it, and before it even releases, we've got to be working on the next one. So I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm waiting for that lightning to strike. I mean, I just don't have it yet.
Yeah.
But luckily, it's still a long time till Seahawk comes out.
Sure.
And they want me to do one a year, so I've got a year from December 7th.
Yeah.
there's another one out there.
You got time.
Well, I'll be all right.
Yeah, between your gallivanting down to Charleston, South
Charleston,
Carolina,
South Carolina,
you
South
know,
Carolina, Charleston,
Charleston.
Charleston.
You got to roll that thing a little bit now, don't
Yeah, I
you?
love it. I
See?
love it. I love it because I grew up with a South Carolinian. You had that sweet, honey, Southern Charleston accent.
Yeah. Oh
It's
my
better.
God. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, Tad and I will dissect book covers and find out some of his writing secrets that make him such a huge success. Stay with us. Alex Hawke, British lord and gentleman spy, is looking for the Queen's missing grandson, whose disappearance may be the culmination of a plot almost a century old. Pick up Dragonfire, the latest breathtaking adventure from New York Times bestselling novelist Ted Bell. Available now wherever books are sold. And we're back.
See the cover of Seahawk?
Yes, I did. Where is it?
Do you like it?
I love it. I was going to ask you, I have a note here to ask you, who does your covers?
Well, now it's Penguin Random House, and I think it cover is fantastic.
I love this cover.
I think it's the best Hawk cover yet.
It is. I don't know what it is. It's very it's
Palm
modern.
tree, the gun, and it looks like this is going to be good.
Yeah. I would buy it just for the cover, and I don't say that very often, and I'm not saying it because you're just sitting here.
I did like the cover that I did with Emily Bestler at Simon and Schuster for Pirate, which was the single orange life preserver floating on
Yes.
the open sea at night, just floating out there empty. And I just that was my idea, and I really love that.
What I love the use of color palette, and yeah, it forms an enormous question. I would say that is one of my favorites. Zara is pretty clever because it's like a double entendre in image. You can't tell if that's a river or a split, a crevice.
Yeah, at the top of the world.
But Dragonfire feels like a movie poster.
Yeah, well, I like the guy on his motorcycle.
Yep. Overkill looks like a James Bond. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
Patriot feels, I'm going to say something, I hope it pisses you off a little bit, kind of James Patterson-ish.
Overkill? Is that the one?
Patriot.
Oh, Patriot. Yeah, I can't even remember what that is, what it looks
That's
like.
a guy running through he's running past the lens, and it's a
Oh, with a
spear.
gun.
Yeah. My favorite so far is Seahawk is just,
It's just great.
it's
It just looks
dynamite.
like, buy me.
Yeah.
You're walking through the airport, you stop in the bookstore on your way to the plane,
Yep.
and you walk by that, and you just say, okay, I'm buying that.
Hopefully I won't have to buy it. Hopefully you'll autograph it and just
Oh, you're
send it
going
to
to
me.
get one. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, you will get one.
Okay, here's a question for you. I always love this is into the little minutia of it's the radio guy in me coming out. Paper and pen or laptop or desktop?
Desktop, and then and then a Mac, whatever it is, the one I'm on now.
Yeah, MacBook Pro. So not fountain point, not fountain pen, not ballpoint, not pencil. No, none of that.
I tried it in the beginning,
Yeah.
on legal pads, and just felt like work. But when you sit here doing this and it's just coming out,
Yeah.
it feels good.
This is so funny. I want to drill down on this because you and I share. I've gone to more conferences and I've sat in classes and I'm this is my third career, so I'm really trying to do this right.
Sure.
But I sit on a fence. My right leg dangles over the side that says, "Come on, dude! It's imagination. Just let it roll. Just let my fingers just go."
Do the talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the left leg says, "No, we've got to have form and structure so that we know where we're going." And I'm like,
No,
"Yeah,
no, you don't.
yeah,
I don't want to know. I want it to be a surprise.
yeah."
And I think if you write it like that, then it's fun for the reader because they don't like, oh, I never saw that coming.
Because if you're getting surprised, they're going to get surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And not just at the end, but all the way through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
I thought I had this character in Dragonfire that I have this very good friend of mine named Anson Beard, who used to be chairman of Morgan Stanley, and he's a good friend of mine down in Florida. And I was at his house one night for dinner, and he took this other guy who'd never been to his house before, upstairs to his office where he's got all these stuffed animals and sailfish and all the stuff he's caught. His brother was Peter Beard, who was the famous guy in Africa who was married to the model. Yeah, he just passed away a little while ago. But anyway, so Anson and this other guy, who was another guy that I knew, were both. So Anson asked the other guy, "Are you a member of the South Carolina Plantation Society?" And he says, "Of course I am. I've got a beautiful plantation just outside of Charleston." And Anson said, "Well, my mother and father had a plantation. They were members of the South Carolina Plantation Society." And she said, "We had a lot of strange people around in those days." He said, "Did you ever hear of a guy down there named Shit Smith?" And I just froze, like the headlights. I went, "What did he say?" And I turned around. I said, "Anson, what did you say this guy's name was again?" He said, "Shit Smith." I said, "His name was Shit Smith?" He said, "Yeah." So I named the villa the Dragonfire Shit Smith. And my editor, Tom Colgan at Putnam, said, "We can't do that." I said, we'll just call him Mr. Smith, but every now and then somebody call him Shit. This is a great name for a bad guy.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. By the way, I want you to see that I did come prepared.
The see-through.
Yeah.
The traditional see-through, is that with an olive, I hope?
Yeah, double olives.
Boy, does that look good. I might have to go make one of those myself.
It's been sitting here getting warm, but I thought, you know what? I want to be able to bring it out because
It's excellent. It's excellent.
of anyone that I know would appreciate it, it'd be you.
You know the guys from The Crew, Mike House and all those guys?
Yes.
When they do these things, they're drinking.
Oh, yeah.
They're drinking. They say, "Fix a drink, Ted. Let's do it." They're going.
I'm going to start having a session. My wife and I had a podcast a summer or two ago, and it would call Cocktails and Conversations, and we would have a cocktail before we're getting ready for the show.
Sure.
Well, the good news is we had a lot of fun doing it. The bad news is by the end of it, we were so soused. It was a little embarrassing. But yeah, I need to bring that back because let's think about it. You relax a little bit with a cocktail while you're doing a show. Makes everything
fun.
Yeah, drinking is fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
And speaking of which, while we're wrapping things up, because I know you got a busy schedule and I don't want to eat up all your time, but
no, I'm enjoying it.
Thank you. I am too. This is really delightful. All right. You're invited to a super posh party. We won't go into details where it is, but it's wonderful. It's at the dreamiest location you can think of. I want to know, what car are you going to arrive in that might not be your Bentley? What cocktail will you be having at this fine occasion? And who is
one like the one you just showed me.
Okay. And who is on your arm? So 3 things. Dreamiest location. What car is you going to arrive in? What cocktail are you going to be drinking? The martini. And who's on your arm?
Well, I probably would drive the Bentley because that's the car that's my go-to.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I definitely would have Victoria de la Masa, who's a Spanish countess and my girlfriend who lives in Boston, on my arm, and nobody else.
Perfect.
She's fabulous. She's just fabulous. I'm going down there Saturday morning. I can't wait. I've been sitting in this house by myself writing that book, and I'm just ready to get out of here. Enough.
I bet she is beautiful. And here you go. Gin or vodka martini?
My father, who loved to drink and drank a lot, but you never saw him in any way out of control or anything. But I think it was my grandfather or my father, when I first mentioned gin, because I probably experimented with it in college, but my dad called it loudmouth soup. It made you think you were really smart or really tough guy, and just right. Loudmouth soup. So once I heard loudmouth soup, I said, no, I'm not going there.
So you stuck with vodka.
Yeah.
It's funny. In my early days, when I was in Chicago, which is another reason I knew about your advertising days. I was doing a radio show there, and we were doing Tanqueray martinis. Now, what I have learned through the years that Tanqueray is not, no offense to Tanqueray, but it's not the gin to drink. because then I discovered Hendrix, and I thought that's better.
Which is the gin that you like?
Hendrix.
Hendrix, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a botanical blend, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think I've got a bottle in there.
Yeah,
over there on the bar.
but I will say this, and this is another thing we share. I do believe that a vodka martini is, in my opinion, the true cocktail because, and my wife and I've had this conversation.
So with vermouth or no vermouth?
I like mine bone dry.
I like an olive.
It's going to be an olive, and I had a friend introduce me to one day, a bartender in Chicago at a little bar called, I think it was Gold Star Sardine Bar. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do sort of. My favorite name for a bar ever in my life, and it was on like Division Street, I think, and I used to go by it all the time. I lived on what was my street? Astor Street.
Astor.
Which was a block up from the famous hotel. Anyway, but one block off of the river, of the lake.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, it just had a big sign hanging out over the door and said, "Stop and drink." That was the name of the place. Stop and drink. Let's go and we used to go there after work. Just like it was a crappy little bar. But it was just so funny to go to a bar called Stop and Drink.
Well, the little trick I learned from the Gold Star is they kept their vermouth in an atomizer, and they would literally just go,
Brilliant.
just a mist. And I was like, that's the way I want it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Okay. Oh, here you go. As we come to a closer conclusion, when you're writing, are you a fan? Do you like to listen to music, or do you like it quiet?
I keep thinking that I'm going to have music, and then I end up not, because I think I might find it distracting or something.
Yeah.
And if I had it, I don't know what I want, Wagner, or what I want, Beethoven. I don't know, something. But I bought one of those Bose speakers.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I could have it in here if I wanted to and try it out. I just haven't tried it yet.
Sure.
It might help, or it might be distracting.
Okay, this will be a variation on that theme. You're taking a long trip, long flight, could be a train. With you, it could be anywhere in the world. You have one book to read, and you've got one CD to listen to. What would be that book, and what would be that CD?
Well, I should show you the book because I'm recommending it to everybody I know. Can I just duck in there?
Please do. Please do.
It's brilliantly written.
Yeah. All right, let's take a short break as Ted hunts for his recommended reading. And I wonder if you'd do me a small favor. If you're listening on your favorite podcast channel, would you take a quick moment to like? And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, would you consider liking and subscribing? As you can imagine, it takes a lot of work to create these shows. And if you like and share via your favorite social channels, you'd help offset the big tech algorithms as well as show me that you like the work. I'd be mighty grateful. Okay, now back to the show.
Okay, and action. Work with me, people, please. Quiet on the set. Hello, this is Ted Bell, the author of the Alex Hawke spy novel series, and you are enjoying, as am I, the Thriller Zone with our host, David Temple, who just happens to be a fabulous guy. So have fun. So it's called The Anatomist. And here's the cover. I don't know if you can see it. And his name is Federico Anduhasi. And the book is called The Anatomist. Can you see it?
Yes, Federico
Anduhasi, I think.
I love the cover.
Isn't the cover great?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's just, the guy's an incredible writer. And it's not like the kind of stuff I normally read, but it's really good.
How would you describe it in like a sentence?
If
you say it's something you don't ordinarily read.
Well, it's kind of erotic.
Okay.
The first 5 pages. I don't know if the whole book is, but I mean, he's an incredibly elegant writer. And I think Victoria would love it because she's very European.
Yes. And erotic, I'm sure.
So she's bingo. That's why she's on the arm, pal.
Bingo.
Yeah. I'm just, what have I been reading? I was one of the original Stephen King fans, and everybody made fun of me because I would say, "Why do you read that horror trash?" And and I would say, "Look, the guy is like," because I just read The Stand, and then The Shining, and I said, "You guys have no idea what you're talking about. This guy is going to be the American Dickens.
Yep.
The guy is fabulous."
Yeah.
And so I'm reading Rose Madder, which I've never read, Stephen. And then I love this guy because he's one of my Florida writers, Tim Dorsey, Tropic of Stupid. It's hysterical. It's hysterical. So I'll I'll read this on the plane to Charleston.
That's awesome. I'm trying to think of what is Stephen King's new one called? Billy Summers.
Billy Summers.
I was reading, was scanning Twitter today. Linwood Barkley said, "A day and a half, fastest I've ever read a 500-page book. Have a crick in my neck to prove it. Well done, Stephen King."
Good for him. That's great. Yeah, he's good. He is good.
Yeah, saying he's good's like saying,
Yeah, right.
I like breathing,
He's really, really right. Water is wet.
Yeah, that guy can put a word together in a sentence or two.
Yeah, right.
Last question.
Yeah.
If you could give your younger self one piece of sage advice, if you could go back and say, "Here, come here, young Ted," could be 7 years old, could be 15, could be 21.
Right.
What would that be?
Be honest and never do anything that you don't love. Like, that's why I wanted to become a writer, because I loved reading. And it's kind of the reason I said, if I got to make some money, which I did after college, I said, why not go into advertising and be a copywriter? Because at least I'll be writing.
Right.
What I didn't realize is to be spending other people's money to go to the south of France and shoot a commercial at the Hotel de Cap, and just be living it up,
Yeah.
It was a pretty good life. Yeah.
Yeah, you have had quite a life.
It's been fun.
And we look forward to seeing what is next for Ted Bell.
Absolutely. Well, I hope what's next is going to be a Universal movie of one of the Hawke books, and the Netflix streaming series of The Time Pirate.
Wow.
You've seen The Time Pirate cover, right?
Oh yeah. I've got it here.
That's pretty good.
Yes, I do like those. And it reminds me it has a feeling of, well, I'm trying to think of who I fantasized and escaped with. I was always a big Huck Finn fan, being in the South, but Hardy Boys, I mean,
I love the Hardy Boys. I read every one of them. Loved them.
Never got any better than that. And
it was great. It was
and
great.
we
I actually named a character in a Hawke book after it wasn't one writer. It was one name on the book as the writer, and I can't remember his name right this minute. But it was like 5 or 6 or 10 writers that all contributed to the series. It wasn't just one guy that was writing them. But I think my inspiration for Nick of Time was Treasure Island.
Yeah.
And I just said, if I could write a book as good as Treasure Island, I'm not saying it is, but it was a way to, like a North Star, And
it's kind of cliche, but the one word that bubbles up to my mind when we talk about this is the element of escape. You could just you just run away to another land,
right.
And you get lost in that world. That's
absolutely
the beauty of it all.
I loved going up the Amazon with Hawke, and they run aground because it's a deep keeled yacht, and so they're stuck in the center of the river, and the skipper is afraid they're going to get pushed broadside to the current and get flipped over. It's a 250-foot long yacht. And so they're sitting around thinking, how are we going to get out of here? And all of a sudden they hear these noises of like paddles in the water, and they turn the lights on up in the rigging, and they're surrounded by canoes full of headhunters and cannibals that are firing poison-tipped arrows. And Hawke runs up to the bow, and there's a guy with a arrow in the middle of his chest, dead on the bow. And it's a really hairy scene, and I loved it. It was just so much fun to do. But it was great learning about the Amazon. It's just an amazing force of nature.
I guess I'm wondering what part of the world you're going to escape to next. And I guess that will take us post Seahawk, possibly.
Yeah. Well, I've always tried to go to places that I like to be.
Sure.
That's why I picked Bermuda for him, because I'm a huge Bermuda fan, and I belong to a beautiful club there. And so I go there every chance I get.
Yeah.
So I gave him a house on Bermuda. And Victoria and I were having lunch at this. Have you been to Bermuda, to Hamilton?
Oh yeah, I love it.
So the hotel that's on the harbor is the Princess, I think. And
I've not been there.
The Hamilton Princess. And so Victoria and I were walking out of the restaurant through the lobby, and there was this couple and a couple of older people and a couple of kids, and they saw me coming out, and they stopped, and they were looking at me, and then they came over and they said, "Are you Ted Bell?" I said, "Yeah, I am." They said, "Tell us something. We've been spending the last 2 days trying to find Tea Kettle Cottage, where Alex Hawke lives. Where is it?" I said, "I can't tell you. He doesn't want to be disturbed." But I love the idea that they actually thought it was there.
That is amazing.
That was great. It was great. It was really fun.
That's got to make you feel awesome.
Like a million dollars.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But Ted,
something feel better, as they say. Well, so I'm reading Czar for the third time. That cheers me up.
Oh yeah.
Any book you're going to read 3 times, you got to like it pretty much, right?
Yeah. Well, I would love for the next time that we speak, if it isn't somewhere around December when the release of Seahawk,
that would be good timing for me.
I wish we could sit down face to face, have a cocktail, and do it proper style.
Let's do it.
We got to figure out how to do this
between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
To be decided. And where do you want to do it?
Well, we'll just have to figure that out, because I'm in San Diego and you're in Connecticut, and we'll just have to. Maybe we have to let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be down in Miami first week of November.
I love Miami.
Yeah, my wife's family's down there.
We stay at the hotel on Brickell Key, the Mandarin. It's got the pool and the white sandy beach. It's right out in the middle of it lights up the whole skyline at night, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great restaurant.
Way to slum it. That's a shame you have to do that.
Just slumming it.
Yeah. Ted, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Really, I knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
I feel the feeling.
I mean, I'm only through partly through Czar, but I feel like I know you. I feel like I know Alex, and that may sound kind of whatever, but I don't really care. But
I'm going to give you one heads up on Czar.
Yeah.
You're going to cry at the end.
Oh, okay.
Heartbreaking.
Okay. Wow.
Turns out to be all right, but it's this incredible tragedy that befalls Hawke at the very end.
Well, I am kind of a softie, so that won't be too hard to do.
Yeah, I cry all the time. But Victoria says, "You cry if a fly lands on your computers." I mean, you just cry all the time. She makes me cry.
Well,
in a good way.
Yeah, I was going to say it's her heart that makes you cry, probably.
Yeah, it's great. She's just great.
And it's so funny. My wife does that to me. I have such a deep passion for her heart and her soul that we'll be talking sometimes, and she calls it misty. She goes, "Why are you getting misty?" And I'm like, I just think about how much I love you, and you're just so awesome.
I'm the same way with Victoria. I can't even tell her how much I do.
We're lucky guys.
Yeah, totally. So,
yeah, thank you again, buddy.
My pleasure. I love being with you.
Wasn't that a treat? If you'd like to know more about Ted, simply go to tedbell.com. Now, let's shift gears to one of the promising thriller writers in America. Next Friday, you'll have the pleasure of meeting the lovely and talented Megan Collins as we discuss her latest novel, The Family Plot, a book that's been called by Publishers Weekly an entertaining and chilling tale of family secrets, lies, and primordial fears. So join us next Friday. Yes, that's Friday the 13th, when I hope you'll join me on the next episode of The Thriller Zone.